Good morning, everyone. Okay, so this morning I wanted to do a short live about gratitude. And gratitude, how we can shift our alignment in our business, in our life with gratitude, even when we're facing very extreme, difficult challenges in life or in business, or even in our spiritual journey. Gratitude is not always easy when we are in a state of suffering. Sometimes it's not till the other end of that suffering that we see things in a different way. But when we can be objective and take our emotions out of things and we can detach, we have the ability to be able to see that from that situation, other things change and other learnings come through. But sometimes at that point, we all don't want to, how could you say, when we're going through challenges, human nature, particularly in the way we live our modern world, we want to often remove ourselves from the situation because we feel that uncomfortableness. And unless we own that uncomfortableness and let it shift, try and change our perspective, and sometimes that emotional pain and emotional rawness stays prevalent. Now, when you're in a spiritual business, so I'm going to clarify something. So when I talk about running a spiritual business, I'm not just talking about selling spiritual products. To me, you can sell spiritual products, but to me, if you're running a spiritual business, to me, running a spiritual business is about running a business coming from a spiritual perspective and treating as much as you can in your business, or doing it in a more soul and a spiritual way. There can be there can be a huge difference in just someone who sells spiritual products and services and just approaches it as a business, but doesn't approach it from a more soulized spiritual way, than someone who treats almost everything and as much as they can in their business from a spiritual perspective. There's a big difference. Now, over the last few years, most people in the world have, in many ways, have had their, I suppose, aspects of life has been shaken. I'm not saying everybody, because we all have different life experiences, and I know there's a lot of things that people felt they experienced the last few years that I didn't experience for a variety of reasons. And I think and some of that was people having to face their mortality, and for some of us we've already had to face that for different reasons and different experiences. But most people had things shaken up in some perspective. When we have things shaken up in our life, our business, even our spiritual perspective, it can move us into sometimes constriction or expansion. So change can sometimes feel uncomfortable. It can feel sometimes exciting and energizing, but sometimes it can be very uncomfortable, right? Gratitude is so important. No matter what you're going through expansion or constriction, right? Even recognizing when you're in constriction. And in a business, even just taking the spiritual aspect out, running a business can have so many challenges, because no matter how many things that you have worked on and invested and dedicated in your business, the business is like anything in life. There is a flow to it. and there is certain things that change in seasons, right? It's like there's growth period, there's things that there's more stagnant, and times when it gets better, just like the seasons. And the more that we grow, our business often has to expand or change with it. If it doesn't, it constricts, right? And in many ways, when you're running a spiritual business, alignment is so important. It's much more important on so many levels than many other businesses. And it can be, is the smallest thing can be really important in a spiritual business. And it can be from the contractors you hire. It can be, it's one of the things that I talk about is your brand, the way that you do your marketing. Many businesses just hire in marketers or business people and coaches to help them. In a spiritual business, because we know that in some ways we're in the spotlight, and that we are, even if we don't see ourselves as leaders, we are acting by example for other people. And when you are helping people in from any spiritual perspective, you are a representation of that core message that you are helping people with. So it's so important that you get that message right. It's so important that you represent, the energy, represent the core values of what you're trying to come across, put that across. And actually, that's not always easy. People think that getting your message across in your business is all about just showing up in a video and just showing up. That's a whole other story. It's not just that, it's so many other things. But when we understand that business only grows with gratitude and the energy of love, because at the end of the day, what is gratitude? Gratitude is that appreciation, and it comes from the heart. It comes from you are deeply grateful, and you're bringing that loving energy into the situation. So you're appreciating the people that are helping you. So that may be your audience who support you, who share your posts, who engage. It can be your clients and your customers that pay for your products and services, that keep your business running, they help you grow. It can be your support team, the people that are behind the scenes and do different things for you. Like Caroline. Caroline has been so invaluable, particularly for me, even though she's just been doing social media. That's her. She's great at how could you say, doing the proofreading the content. Also, when I have I've been thinking through, I'm one of these people that I'm a doer, right? And I do things with flow, but sometimes I need to share what I'm experiencing, and I do my mind, because I'm so creative. Also, I get brain fog and things like that. Sometimes my mind just goes, so I need sometimes someone to kind of relay that. And I'm indebted for that. I've also got Michelle. Michelle's been doing odd work for me for the last 6 months, and Michelle's going to be doing more social media, because that's her area of expertise, and she's going to be doing more things for me in groups I just don't have time to do and share stuff, right? And it's also important that we're grateful for the support that we get, but also that we keep things in our business in alignment, right, to where things are going. And so gratitude, so when we are grateful for things in life, even when things are showing up that may not be working anymore, right, things are just not completely aligned, or something is not an exact match anymore, no matter what it is in your business or your life or your relationships or even your spiritual journey. Part of that shift is being grateful and appreciating what you're seeing, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels iffy, right? Even when it's feeling that you don't want, right? So it may be that there's a situation that you don't really want to deal with, right? You're avoiding, you don't want to deal with, something's not quite aligned and it's not working for your business. Or maybe you're not getting the engagement. I know a lot of people, even people who get, were used to getting thousands of people engagement in a post, who maybe had tens of thousands of followers, are finding themselves in a completely different situation now. It's something I could see coming with particularly this platform, which I'm recording this on at the moment, is FB, right? And a lot of people are getting really frustrated, angry, or resentful instead of facing it and being grateful that it's teaching you something, that something has to change. Now, yeah, it can be sometimes looking at what's going on and seeing the algorithm, but it can also be going and saying, right, is this time to change tactics and use a different way of doing my business? If I became reliant on something. And it's like your spiritual journey. When we are growing and we're becoming more aware, we start to realize on things that we depended on, and we can depend on, we've came to depend on spiritual ideas and beliefs that we had, and it's uncomfortable moving out of that. And I'll give you some examples. So one of the first modalities that I worked with was Reiki. At the same time, I had went to different therapists. So I had, holistic therapies, aromatherapy, osteopathy. There was loads of different things, craniosacral, I've done different things. But I first started studying Reiki over 30 years ago. And in some ways, I could say it was a lifesaver, but did it save my life? No. Did it make as much a big impact as other healing modalities? No. But it was an amazing modality as a first modality. It was an amazing modality to use in people. It was amazing how relaxing it helped and how it helped the body get into homeostasis. And when I first came across it, I thought it was absolutely magical, because it kind of blew my perspective at that time, right? I think I was about 19 at that time, or 20, but anyway, because it was something I didn't know and understand. And then when I started to come across meditation, I have to be honest, I had to try lots of different types of meditation until I found a meditation or a teacher. It was probably more the teacher, not just, excuse me, I think there is, a lot of people look at meditation from different perspectives, but I think sometimes it's the teacher you get as well, and the style of teaching. But I went down different routes to meditation. And then I started to get a real deep appreciation of meditation. And they were my key components. Now, I was very grateful, and most people are always, when they come into their spiritual journey, they often use and utilize the modalities that really helped them on their journey, and they were powerful. And I started the same. Stress management was another one. It was something that I studied. I'd done lots of different courses in stress management and done it from different perspectives. So I was grateful for that. But then I went through a period where my views on life, my views, my even spiritual views, and my views even on my business journey started to change, because I was growing, I was expanding. And some of the beliefs that I had about some of these things and some of the things that I taught before were shifting. And through that period, it was like, in some ways, I was constraining and expanding, because I started to get fearful, because I thought, oh my goodness, was what I was teaching wrong? And it wasn't wrong, it was just I didn't have another piece of the puzzle. I didn't see something. Now, lucky for me, some of the things, because I went to all different types of teachers and never just was ever taught by one person. And often, it's just the way it worked out. Often the things that I often studied would like to explore it with different teachers, right? So I had one advantage, that I wasn't actually always someone that could see things. I had to be from a family of 9, know that everybody sees things from a different perspective, and sometimes we miss certain things. That helped me, but I still panicked, right? And I was getting into not an energy of gratitude, I was in an energy of fear, disempowerment, and going, oh my God, have I taught everything wrong? What have I done? And how am I going to move forward with this? So I was in this kind of constriction, and as I said, not grateful, because I just like, oh God, right? It was like almost, and at the moment I see so many business people like that shutting down at the moment, and because they're in a state of lack. Now, I went through periods in my business when I got stuck, and I also was in periods where I was in a state of lack. And yeah, I'm human. There was times where I was like, oh my God. And sometimes I still do. I say things and then I think, what have I said, right? And I think, oh my goodness, this is not happening. That's not happening, right? And it's okay to, and it's important to recognize it. It is important to recognize it. I'm a proactive person. So when I know something's not working, I recognize it and I think, right, what have I got to do about it? But sometimes the things that we've got to do are not comfortable. They are not comfortable because we've got to do something sometimes we don't like, right? And sometimes in business, we've got to make very hard decisions, right? But in those situations, and I've been reminded this week, we have to get back to gratitude, what we are grateful, and we have to be in the state of gratitude when we're being shown something is not working. And that helps us understand if it's to do with our own alignment and vibration. And that can be to do sometimes just a perception, we've missed something, or that we are refusing, we've been denying something that we should have done, or changes we should have made in our business, shifts we should have made, or other choices that we didn't want to do. But it's teaching us something. But it's also about helping us to spiritually grow. Because what happened to me was I taught, for example, I taught meditation for many years. I taught Reiki. I went out, and my biggest work was being a trainer and a teacher, right? I taught in the local community for businesses, organizations. So my work was a teacher. But then things changed for me. To me, it was to do with health. And actually, even though a lot of healers and spiritual teachers will look at it and say, well, there was something that put you in that situation. And if I looked at it on the physical realm, it was medical damage, medical harm, right? And I nearly lost my life. But yeah, there was other spiritual. But guess what? Out of that challenge where certain things were taken away, I actually found myself in a situation gaining, and a lot of people find it very strange that that I talk very positive about going back to being housebound and being in a situation where my life was very limited. I learned the most amazing gifts, and I found myself studying things I would have never imagined studying, right? Meeting teachers, working with people, and understanding and seeing things from such a wider perspective that I would never done it. So out of my suffering and out of my pain, out of my disabilities, out of certain challenges that maybe people thought I should have shifted, guess what? It took me on a journey I would have never been, and it was meant to be, right? So no matter what you're going through right now, it's so important that you're grateful, even for the suffering. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but believe me, there's so many things that we all go through alone that no one else understands. No one else understands. There's so many things about my journey that I know most people cannot comprehend or understand, because they were never in my shoes, and they were not here to learn the lessons that I was to learn, or teach the things that I'm here to teach. And it's the same for you. You have a unique message to your audience, but it's important that you know your audience. For example, in this group, even people that are in this group, there'll be people in this group that is not my audience. They just maybe come in to see if they get freebies, or they're just to see and they're trying to feel if it's right for them, right? And like all of yous in this group, a lot of yous in this group, this group is healers and whatever, we're all coming together, but it won't be often your target market, your target audience, right? And some people might get some of your messages and understand it, and it means something to them. Some of it may just go, it just doesn't resonate at all. And that's okay. That's what it's all about, because I'm not here to please everyone. My message is not here for everyone. It is only for certain people. And even if a small part of that message gets through, well, that's good. And it's the same for you. So it's really important that we are thankful for the challenges in our life, right? And what that teaches us, that we are grateful for the challenges along the path when things are really, really uncomfortable and even really dark, because out of the darkness comes awakening. It's also been grateful for those really hard times when no one understands, because you're going through something on a level or a different understanding. I had to make many decisions about a lot of the healing modalities that I used, and it had to be my own reasons. But my journey took me along a different path for different reasons than for other people. And I remember at the time, I'll give you an example of what happened. Someone that I knew that was another healer, a fellow healer, challenged me because I was not going to them for healing. Well, first of all, I wouldn't have chose them for a lot of reasons. I like to choose my own healers. I like to work with people that have a certain level of experience and where I feel aligned. But this person's had to challenge me because I had stopped using certain modalities. But my core instincts at that time were telling me it wasn't right for me at that point. And what I didn't know was ready to arrive. Now, see, as soon as I decided to let that go, this is so interesting. It is so interesting. When I had the courage to say, no, I have to say that this is not right for me anymore. Guess what? A teacher appeared, and he came in the form of my good friend David. And he came in with something that was a missing piece at that time, a different perspective. He came in with all different types of teachings, understandings, angles that I hadn't been able to get access to. And it was like a missing piece that was opening something else. And then guess what? Other teachers appeared, right? One of the biggest things that a lot of people at the moment are hanging on to in their businesses, they're trying to hold on to the old. We all do it. I'm having to try and shift through that as well. Things are changing in humanity. Things are changing on a spiritual level and on an awakening level. And how we do things are going to be very, very, very different. How we do it, how we see things is going to be very different. But to make that expansion and to make that change, we have to let go of the old. We have to embrace the new, and we need to know what really feels aligned with us and go with the people that feel aligned with us. And sometimes that's letting go of all sorts of people that maybe you like and whatever, but they are an audience that you do like these people, but they're not your ideal match or how you're moving forward, right? And it's like we've all noticed this to do with sometimes with friends and family, the relationship changes because you are working at a different level. When your business moves, there's certain things move with it. And sometimes it can be certain other aspects of your business have to shift and move the way that you do it, right? But if we cannot be grateful for what the lessons teaches us, it helps us see maybe our vulnerabilities or areas where we're not very strong. I know for me, it's always been boundaries, lack of assertiveness. even truth, I do try and be as truthful as I can when I'm doing my work. And sometimes people say, well, you're very truthful, but there's other things. I can find that really hard when I'm worried that I'm going to hurt someone. But I also understand that spiritual truth and truth is often more important than actually kindness. I used to believe that kindness and compassion, as an empath in a sense of, was the most important thing that you could do in the world, and I understand that, and there is some of that in some level, but I also think we're in a point, and this is my perspective, and that we're in a point of spiritual evolution where in some ways time is running out for, it's like when you're trying to save someone's life, is it truth or is it kindness? Right? And I believe that's to do with awakening. And also it depends also what your business is based on and what you are offering, of course, right? So it depends on what you're doing. So this is just a reminder about how important it is to be grateful for our own journey, grateful for the really hard challenges that we have, and always remember, no matter how hard things may be in your business or your life or in your spiritual journey, remember, it's often like when it's really hard, you're like at that point in the mountain, you're just nearly ready to reach the peak or get to that other end. There's a beautiful gift waiting for the other end. Sometimes you don't see the gift right away. Sometimes it can take you a couple of years around it. I know that the last few years, I knew certain things had happened to me for a reason, but it wasn't that those gifts didn't come to me till the last few years and made me have a strength and a solidness and an understanding that many other people maybe weren't ready for. Of course, I had other things that I need help with. Of course, that's why, as someone in my journey, I think it's so important that you always invest in other people and you get help with other people, because we all don't have all the answers and we all don't have it sussed out. And if we're going to help people on our spiritual journey, it's so important that if we are going to ask other people to invest in us, that we invest in other people too. So I hope this helps and just helps you, remind you, because it's just reminders that we're all on a spiritual journey and how important it is to get into gratitude, because I think we live in a society that gratitude seems to just in many ways be null and void, and everybody, is just, I'm not saying everybody, I don't mean that, but there's a general thing that we're so used to so much consumerism and things at the press of a button. We're so used to also getting so much for free today and access to so much that we don't value a fellow human being. We don't value the knowledge, the wisdom, and the gifts that have been shared to us all on a daily basis. We don't value ourselves and we don't value our journey. So I want you to think about, where in your journey have you had the biggest lessons, the lessons that at the time you were like going, you found it hard to be grateful, but now you are grateful, and I'm going to leave it there.